Millionaire opens the fridge. Take whatever you want, but the little girl only asks for leftovers. Before we begin this beautiful story that will touch your heart, subscribe now for more emotional stories, leave your like and comment if you would help this poor little girl to eat, and tell us where you are watching from. The October rain drummed against the windows of Bella Vista, Manhattan's most exclusive Italian restaurant, as Alexander Sterling adjusted his Armani tie and glanced at his Rolex. Another business dinner, another deal closed, another evening spent surrounded by people who only saw dollar signs when they looked at him. At 35, Alex had built Sterling Industries from the ground up, transforming a small tech startup into a billion-dollar empire. Yet as he sat in his usual corner booth, overlooking Fifth Avenue through floor-to-ceiling windows, he felt more alone than ever. "Mr. Sterling, your car is waiting outside," his assistant Marcus whispered discreetly, appearing at his elbow with military precision. The evening's negotiations had concluded successfully, another acquisition that would pad Sterling Industries' already impressive portfolio. Alex nodded, shaking hands with his business partners and exchanging the usual pleasantries about golf games and summer homes in the Hamptons. As he stepped outside into the crisp October evening, the rain had intensified, creating a symphony of droplets against the restaurant's awning. His driver, James, hurried forward with an umbrella, but Alex waved him away. Sometimes he needed to feel something real, even if it was just cold rain soaking through his expensive suit. That's when he saw her. A small figure huddled against the restaurant's exterior wall, partially hidden by the shadows, but illuminated by the warm glow spilling from the windows. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with blonde hair plastered to her head from the rain and wearing a thin jacket that had seen better days. Her small hands were pressed against the glass, and she was staring inside with an expression that made Alex's chest tighten. Not the look of a child hoping for toys or candy, but the hollow gaze of someone who understood hunger. Alex froze mid-step, his business instincts momentarily forgotten. In all his years of success, of climbing corporate ladders and acquiring companies, he had become insulated from this kind of raw need. His world was one of boardrooms and country clubs, of catered meetings and five-star restaurants. But this little girl, standing in the rain with her face pressed against the glass like a scene from a Dickens novel, shattered that comfortable bubble. "Sir?" James's voice seemed to come from far away. "Shall I bring the car around?" Alex barely heard him. He was already walking toward the child, his expensive Italian leather shoes splashing through puddles he would normally avoid. As he approached, he could see her more clearly. She was even smaller than he had initially thought, probably no more than 40 pounds soaking wet. Her blonde hair, despite being drenched, caught the light in a way that seemed almost ethereal, but it was her eyes that stopped him cold, large blue, and filled with a mixture of hope and resignation that no child should ever possess. "Hey there, sweetheart," Alex said softly, crouching down to her level despite the rain soaking through his knees. His voice was gentler than it had been in years, stripped of the authoritative tone he used in boardrooms. "What are you doing out here in the rain?" The little girl turned toward him, and Alex felt his heart skip a beat. Up close, there was something hauntingly familiar about her features, the shape of her nose, the way her eyebrows curved. But before he could process that feeling, she spoke in a voice so small it was almost lost in the rain. "I'm sorry, mister. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just looking." Her words carried a slight tremor, whether from cold or fear Alex couldn't tell. She took a small step backward, as if preparing to run, and Alex realized she had probably been shooed away from other establishments before. "You're not in trouble, honey. I'm just worried about you being out here in this weather." Alex glanced around, looking for any sign of an adult who might be with her. The street was relatively empty, except for the usual Manhattan evening crowd hurrying past under umbrellas, no one paying attention to a small girl and a businessman in the rain. "Are you here with someone? Your parents? Or—" The child's expression shifted, a shadow crossing her face. "Mama's at home. She's sick and can't come out. I just wanted to see the food." She gestured toward the restaurant window with one small, pale hand. "It looks so warm in there." Alex felt something crack inside his chest. The simple honesty in her words, the way she said "mama" with such love, despite their circumstances, the fact that she was standing in the rain just to look at food she couldn't have. It was breaking down walls he had spent years building around his heart. "Are you hungry, sweetheart?" The question came out before he could stop it, though he already knew the answer from the way she unconsciously placed a hand on her stomach. She nodded, but quickly added, "But I don't have any money. I wasn't asking for anything, I promise." That did it. Alex stood up, his decision made before his rational mind could interfere. "Well, I have plenty of money, and I was just about to have dinner myself. Would you like to join me?" The little girl's eyes widened in disbelief. "Really? But I'm all wet and dirty. They won't let me in there." Alex smiled. A real smile, the first genuine one he had produced in months. "Sweetheart, I own enough restaurants that I think we can find you a place to eat. But first, let's get you somewhere warm and dry." He turned to James, who had been standing nearby with the umbrella, looking concerned but professional. "James, cancel my evening appointments. We're going home." As they walked toward the black Tesla, Alex found himself studying the child's profile. There was definitely something familiar about her, a nagging sense of recognition that he couldn't quite place. She moved with careful, precise steps, the way children do when they have learned to be cautious about taking up space in the world. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Alex asked as James opened the car door. "Mia," she said quietly, climbing into the back seat with wide eyes at the car's luxurious interior. "Mia Patterson." Patterson. The name hit Alex like a physical blow, and he had to grip the car door to steady himself. It couldn't be a coincidence. Not with those eyes, not with that face. Patterson was Rachel's maiden name. Rachel, the woman who had owned his heart completely 8 years ago before disappearing from his life without explanation. As the car pulled into Manhattan traffic, Alex stared at Mia's reflection in the window, his mind racing. The timeline could work. The age was right, and those eyes. God, those were Rachel's eyes staring back at him from a face that somehow seemed to mirror his own features as well. But he pushed those thoughts away for now. Right now, there was a hungry child in his car, and that was what mattered. Everything else could wait until he had fed her and made sure she was safe. Still, as they drove through the glittering streets of Manhattan toward his penthouse, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that his entire world was about to change forever. The rain continued to fall against the car windows, but inside, something warm was beginning to bloom in a heart that had been cold for far too long. Alex's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a glass tower overlooking Central Park, 40 stories above the city that never slept. As the private elevator rose smoothly upward, Mia pressed her small face against the glass panel, watching the lights of Manhattan spread out below them like a constellation fallen to earth. "Wow," she whispered, her breath fogging the glass. "You live in the clouds." Alex found himself smiling again, something that was becoming easier in this child's presence. Sometimes it feels that way. On foggy days, we really are above the clouds. When the elevator doors opened directly into his living space, Mia's mouth fell open. The penthouse was a study in modern minimalism. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 3 sides, gleaming hardwood floors, and furniture that belonged in architectural magazines. But what captured Mia's attention immediately was the view. Central Park stretched out like a dark green carpet below, bordered by the twinkling lights of the Upper East and Upper West sides. "This is where you live?" she asked in amazement, taking tentative steps into the space as if afraid she might break something just by being there. "It is," Alex confirmed, hanging his wet coat in the foyer closet. "And right now you're my guest, which means you belong here too." He watched as Mia explored the space with careful steps, her small hands clasped behind her back as if she had been taught not to touch expensive things. She paused in front of a wall of awards and photographs, Alex receiving various business honors, shaking hands with mayors and governors, cutting ribbons at charity events. But her attention lingered longest on a single photograph tucked among the others. Alex at 27, laughing genuinely at some long-forgotten joke, his arm around a beautiful woman with dark hair and familiar blue eyes. Rachel. Alex noticed where Mia was looking and felt his throat constrict. He had kept that photograph all these years, unable to explain why, even to himself. Rachel had been the one person who had seen past his ambition, who had loved him for who he was rather than what he owned. When she had disappeared from his life 8 years ago, no explanation, no goodbye, just an empty apartment and a changed phone number, it had nearly destroyed him. "She's pretty," Mia said softly, still studying the photograph. "Yes, she was," Alex replied, then quickly corrected himself. She is pretty." Something in his tone made Mia look up at him, with those impossibly perceptive blue eyes. But before she could ask any questions, Alex clapped his hands together with forced cheerfulness. "Now, let's get you into some dry clothes, and then find you something to eat. I think I have a t-shirt that might work as a dress for you." In his bedroom, Alex found one of his old MIT t-shirts, soft cotton that had been washed hundreds of times. It would hang like a nightgown on Mia's small frame, but it was clean and warm. He also grabbed a pair of thick wool socks and handed the bundle to her. "The bathroom is right through that door," he said, pointing. "Take a warm shower if you'd like. There are towels in the cabinet. I'll be in the kitchen." While Mia showered, Alex found himself standing in his gourmet kitchen, staring at the massive sub-zero refrigerator with a mixture of irony and determination. This kitchen had cost more than most people's houses, equipped with every possible appliance and gadget, yet Alex rarely used it for anything more than storing takeout containers. His housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, kept it stocked with organic everything, but Alex's meals usually came from restaurants or were prepared by his personal chef for dinner parties. Now, faced with feeding a hungry 7-year-old, he felt suddenly inadequate. What did children eat? What did children want to eat? His business acumen, his ability to read markets and people, his talent for negotiation, none of it helped him understand what might appeal to a little girl who had been standing in the rain looking at food through a window. He opened the refrigerator and began taking inventory. Mrs. Chen had been here yesterday, so everything was fresh. There were organic vegetables, free-range eggs, artisanal cheeses, grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, imported fruit, and enough gourmet ingredients to stock a 5-star restaurant. In the freezer, he found organic ice cream, frozen berries, and various pre-made meals that his nutritionist had approved. The abundance suddenly felt obscene. Here he was, standing in front of thousands of dollars worth of premium food, while Mia had been on the street hoping for scraps. The contrast made him physically ill. 20 minutes later, he heard small footsteps on the hardwood floor. Mia appeared in the kitchen doorway, swimming in his MIT t-shirt, her blonde hair damp and combed back from her face. The wool socks came up to her knees, making her look even smaller and more vulnerable than before. But she was clean and warm, and there was color in her cheeks again. "Feel better?" Alex asked, and she nodded shyly. "Thank you for letting me use your shower. I was careful not to use too much soap." Again, that careful politeness that spoke of a child who had learned not to be a burden. Alex's heart clenched. "Mia, you can use as much soap as you want. You can use anything you need here, okay?" She nodded, but he could tell she didn't quite believe him. "Now," Alex said, opening the refrigerator with a flourish, "let's see what we can find for dinner. I have to confess, I don't cook very often, but I think we can figure something out together." Mia approached the open refrigerator slowly, her eyes widening as she took in the contents. Alex watched her face, expecting excitement or at least relief. Instead, he saw something else entirely, a kind of overwhelmed confusion, as if she were seeing something too good to be real. "This is your refrigerator?" she asked in a small voice. "It is, and I meant what I said. You can have anything you want, anything at all." Alex gestured broadly at the shelves of food. "Are you hungry for something specific? I have fruit, vegetables, cheese, eggs, meat, whatever sounds good to you." Mia stood there for a long moment, just staring at the abundance. Her small hands twisted in the hem of the oversized t-shirt, and Alex could see her struggling with something. Finally, in a voice so quiet he had to strain to hear it, she spoke. Could I maybe just have some leftovers?" Alex blinked, certain he had misheard. "Leftovers?" Mia nodded, not meeting his eyes. "Just whatever you don't want anymore. Mama always says that's how we do it. We take the leftovers so we don't waste anything. She says it's important not to take more than you need." The words hit Alex like a sledgehammer to the chest. This child, faced with more food than she had probably seen in months, was asking for scraps because that's what her mother had taught her was appropriate. The pure innocence of it, the ingrained humility and gratitude, was devastating. Alex had to turn away for a moment, gripping the edge of the marble countertop as he fought to compose himself. When he turned back, Mia was watching him with concerned eyes. "Did I say something wrong?" she asked anxiously. "No, sweetheart," Alex managed, his voice rougher than he intended. "You didn't say anything wrong. You said something perfect, but here's the thing. Everything in this refrigerator belongs to me, which means I can decide what to do with it. And right now, I've decided that whatever you want isn't leftovers. It's yours." Mia looked unconvinced, so Alex crouched down to her level again, something that was becoming a habit around this remarkable child. "Mia, your mama sounds like a very wise woman who taught you important things about not being wasteful and being grateful. Those are beautiful lessons. But sometimes, when someone invites you to their home and offers to share their food, the polite thing to do is to accept their generosity. Does that make sense?" She nodded slowly, though he could tell she was still processing this concept. "So," Alex continued, "instead of leftovers, why don't you tell me what your favorite food is? What makes you happy when you eat it?" Mia's face lit up for the first time since he'd met her. "Grilled cheese sandwiches. Mama makes them sometimes when she's feeling better, and tomato soup, but we don't usually have that." Alex grinned. "Grilled cheese and tomato soup it is. That happens to be one of my favorite combinations too." For the next hour, Alex Sterling, a man who regularly negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, found himself completely absorbed in the task of making the perfect grilled cheese sandwich for a 7-year-old girl. Mia sat on a bar stool at the kitchen island, swinging her legs and chattering about everything and nothing. She told him about the pigeons that lived outside her apartment window, about the library where she and her mama went to read books when mama felt well enough, about her favorite stuffed animal named Bear, who only had one eye, but was still the best hugger in the world. As she talked, Alex found himself studying her features more carefully. The resemblance to Rachel was undeniable. The same delicate bone structure, the same expressive eyes, the same way of tilting her head when she was thinking. But there were other features too, ones that made his hands shake slightly as he buttered the bread. The shape of her ears, the way her nose crinkled when she laughed, the stubborn set of her chin when she was determined about something. "Mr. Alex?" Mia's voice broke through his thoughts. "Just Alex is fine, sweetheart." "Alex, are you a daddy?" The question came out of nowhere, innocent and direct, in the way only children could manage. Alex nearly dropped the spatula. "No, Mia, I'm not a daddy." "How come? Don't you want to be?" Such a simple question, but it opened wounds Alex had spent years learning to ignore. He had wanted to be a father once, had dreamed of it with Rachel, had even looked at engagement rings before she disappeared. But those dreams had died with her absence, and he had convinced himself that his work was enough, that success could fill the hollow spaces in his life. I never found the right person to be a daddy with," he said finally, which wasn't entirely a lie. "Mama says my daddy was a good man, but he didn't know about me. She says sometimes good people miss each other because life is complicated." Mia swung her legs thoughtfully. "Maybe you missed each other too." The words were so innocent, so matter-of-fact, but they pierced through Alex's carefully constructed defenses like arrows. Could it be possible? Could Rachel have been pregnant when she left? Could this extraordinary child be? The grilled cheese started to smoke, and Alex quickly flipped it, grateful for the distraction. When he served Mia her sandwich and soup, cut into perfect triangles the way he remembered liking them as a child, she took her first bite and closed her eyes in bliss. "This is the best grilled cheese in the whole world," she declared solemnly. Alex watched her eat with an intensity that surprised him. Every bite she took seemed to heal something broken inside his chest. When she finished half the sandwich and pushed the plate away, he frowned. "Not hungry anymore?" I'm saving the rest for Mama," she said simply. "She doesn't eat much when she's not feeling good, but she might want some later." And just like that, Alex Sterling, billionaire, corporate mogul, man who had everything money could buy, felt his heart break completely open for a 7-year-old girl who thought of her sick mother even when she was finally getting enough to eat. Outside the penthouse windows, the rain had stopped, and the lights of Manhattan twinkled like earthbound stars. But inside, something much brighter was beginning to shine. 3 hours later, Alex found himself in the most surreal situation of his adult life, sitting cross-legged on his imported Italian marble floor, teaching a 7-year-old girl how to play chess with a set that had once belonged to a Russian grandmaster. Mia was a quick learner, her small fingers carefully moving the ornate pieces as she absorbed the rules with startling intelligence. "So the queen is the most powerful piece?" she asked, holding up the carved ivory figure and examining it in the lamplight. "She is. She can move in any direction as far as she wants. She's the one who really runs the kingdom." "Like Mama," Mia said matter-of-factly. "She takes care of everything, even when she's sick." Alex's chest tightened again. Every casual comment from this child revealed more about her life, about the strength and love that had shaped her despite their circumstances. "Tell me about your mama, Mia." "What's she like?" Mia's face brightened immediately. "She's the best mama in the whole world. She's really smart. She knows about books and computers and how to fix things when they break. And she makes up the most amazing bedtime stories. She's just sick right now, but the doctor says she might get better." "Might get better?" Alex's parental instincts he hadn't known he possessed, immediately went on high alert. "What kind of sick?" "The tired kind," Mia said, with the matter-of-fact acceptance that only children could manage when dealing with adult problems they didn't fully understand. "She sleeps a lot, and sometimes she can't get out of bed. The doctor gave her medicine, but it's expensive, so she doesn't take it very much." Alex felt anger rising in his chest, not at Rachel, but at a system that forced a sick woman to ration her medication because of cost. "Mia, when was the last time your mama saw the doctor?" "A long time ago. She says doctors cost too much money, and the medicine makes her feel funny anyway." Mia moved her pawn forward 2 spaces, then looked up at Alex with those devastating blue eyes. "But don't worry, Mama's really strong. She always takes care of me." "I'm sure she does, sweetheart. She raised an amazing little girl." They played in comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds the soft clicking of chess pieces and the distant hum of Manhattan traffic far below. Alex found himself studying Mia's face as she concentrated on the game, cataloguing every feature that reminded him of Rachel, every gesture that seemed hauntingly familiar. "Alex?" Mia's voice was soft, hesitant. Do you think Mama will be worried about me?" Reality crashed back down on Alex like a cold wave. He had been so caught up in the surreal pleasure of having this child in his home, so focused on feeding her and making her comfortable, that he had temporarily forgotten she belonged somewhere else. Somewhere with a sick mother who was probably frantic with worry by now. Oh God, Mia, yes, she's probably very worried. Alex looked at his watch and was shocked to see it was nearly 9 o'clock. "We need to get you home right away. Why didn't you say something earlier?" "I didn't want to leave," Mia admitted in a small voice. "This has been the best day I've had in a really long time, but Mama will be scared if I'm not home soon." Alex's heart broke a little more. The idea that this simple evening, a shower, a warm meal, a game of chess, constituted the best day this remarkable child had experienced recently was almost too much to bear. "Of course you didn't want to leave, and I'm glad you had a good time, but your mama loves you, and she needs to know you're safe." Alex began putting the chess pieces away, his mind already racing ahead to logistics. "Can you tell me your address?" Mia recited an address in Queens that Alex recognized as being in one of the borough's more challenging neighborhoods. Not dangerous exactly, but definitely not affluent. The kind of place where people worked hard for everything they had and still sometimes came up short. "James can drive us there," Alex said, already reaching for his phone to call his driver. "But first, let's pack up some food for your mama." In the kitchen, Alex quickly assembled what could only be described as a care package. He filled multiple containers with leftover ingredients from their cooking adventure, added fresh fruit, organic vegetables, and several pre-prepared meals that Mrs. Chen had stocked in the freezer. He included the other half of Mia's grilled cheese sandwich, carefully wrapped, along with extra soup. Mia watched with wide eyes as he packed bag after bag. "Alex, that's too much. Mama always says we shouldn't take more than we need." "Your mama sounds like a very wise woman," Alex replied, continuing to pack. "But sometimes when someone wants to share what they have, the kindest thing to do is let them. This makes me happy to give, Mia. It makes me feel good inside." As they rode through the night toward Queens, Alex found himself growing increasingly nervous. In a few minutes, he would meet Rachel again, the woman who had disappeared from his life without explanation, taking his heart with her. The woman who had apparently been carrying his child when she left, though she hadn't told him. If Mia was his daughter, the possibility seemed both impossible and inevitable. The timeline worked perfectly. The resemblance was uncanny. And the way he felt about this child, the instant overwhelming love and protectiveness, suggested a connection deeper than simple kindness. "Mama's apartment is up there," Mia said, pointing to a third-floor window in a modest brick building. "The light's on, so she's awake." Alex's heart began pounding as James parked the car. This was it. In a few minutes, he would have answers to questions that had haunted him for 8 years. The building had no doorman, no elevator. Alex and Mia climbed 2 flights of stairs, Alex carrying the bags of food while Mia skipped ahead, clearly excited to be home. The hallway was clean but worn, with old carpet and fluorescent lighting that gave everything a harsh, institutional feel. Mia stopped in front of apartment 3B and knocked in what was clearly a familiar pattern. 2 short, 1 long, 2 short again. "Mama, it's me. I'm home." There was the sound of multiple locks being undone, and then the door opened to reveal a woman who made Alex's knees go weak. Rachel, 8 years older, thinner than he remembered, with dark circles under her eyes and a pallor that spoke of illness. But unmistakably, heartbreakingly, Rachel. She was wearing an oversized sweater and leggings, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, and she looked like she had been crying. "Mia! Oh my God, baby, where have you been? I've been so worried." Rachel's words died as her gaze moved from her daughter to the man standing behind her in the hallway. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, they stared at each other. Rachel's face went through a series of emotions: shock, disbelief, fear, and something that might have been joy before settling into careful blankness. "Hello, Rachel," Alex said softly, his voice rough with 8 years of unspoken words. "Alex." Her voice was barely a whisper. "What? How? Why are you with my daughter?" "Mama, this is Alex. He saved me from the rain and gave me dinner and taught me chess, and he's really nice, and he brought you food." Mia's excited chatter broke the tension, and she tugged on Rachel's sweater. "I told him you were sick and he wanted to help." Rachel's eyes moved from Alex to Mia and back again, and Alex saw the exact moment when understanding dawned. Her face went white, and she reached out to steady herself against the doorframe. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Rachel, we need to talk," Alex said gently. "But first, Mia says you haven't been feeling well. I brought some food and I think—" "You can't be here," Rachel interrupted, her voice panicked. "You can't just show up here with her. You don't understand." "Mama?" Mia's voice was small, confused. "What's wrong? Why are you upset? Alex is nice. He helped me." Rachel looked down at her daughter, and Alex saw her force herself to calm down for Mia's sake. The love between them was palpable, beautiful, and heartbreaking all at once. "I'm not upset with you, baby. You didn't do anything wrong." Rachel's voice was steady now, though Alex could see her hands shaking. "Mr. Sterling was very kind to help you. Can Alex come inside? He brought you soup and grilled cheese and lots of other food. He said it would make him happy to share." Rachel's eyes met Alex's over Mia's head, and in that look was 8 years of pain, regret, and desperate love. Finally, she stepped aside. "Come in, Alex. I suppose it's time." As Alex stepped into the small apartment, carrying bags of food that probably cost more than Rachel's monthly rent, he felt his entire world shifting on its axis. The living room was tiny but clean, with second-hand furniture arranged to maximize space. Children's books were stacked neatly on a coffee table made from an old trunk, and Mia's artwork covered one wall like a gallery. It was a home filled with love, even if it lacked material abundance. "Mia, sweetheart, why don't you go get ready for bed?" Rachel said, her voice carefully controlled. "Mr. Sterling and I need to talk." "Can Alex read me a story? He has a really nice voice." "Not tonight, baby. Maybe another time." Mia looked disappointed but obediently headed toward what Alex assumed was her bedroom, calling over her shoulder, "Thank you for everything, Alex. Today was perfect." When they were alone, Rachel and Alex stood facing each other across 8 years of silence and hurt. She looked fragile, breakable, nothing like the confident woman he had fallen in love with. But her eyes, those blue eyes that Mia had inherited, were still the same, still capable of seeing straight through to his soul. "She's mine, isn't she?" Alex's voice was barely audible. Rachel closed her eyes, and when she opened them, they were filled with tears. "Yes," she whispered, "Mia is your daughter." The words hung in the air between them like a bridge spanning an impossible chasm. Alex felt the world tilt, felt everything he thought he knew about his life rearrange itself around this single, earth-shattering truth. He was a father. He had been a father for 7 years without knowing it. And the woman he had never stopped loving had been raising their child alone, sick and struggling, while he lived in a penthouse 40 miles away. Outside the small apartment windows, the lights of Queens twinkled like distant stars, and somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. But inside apartment 3B, 3 hearts beat in synchrony, finally brought together by fate, rain, and a little girl's simple request for leftovers. The real story was just beginning. The silence stretched between them like a canyon, filled with 8 years of unspoken words and buried pain. Rachel stood with her arms wrapped around herself, as if trying to hold together pieces that might shatter at any moment. Alex stared at her, his mind reeling with questions that tumbled over each other like an avalanche. Why? The single word came out hoarse, raw with emotion. Why didn't you tell me? Rachel's laugh was bitter, broken. Tell you what, Alex, that I was pregnant, that I loved you so much it was killing me to watch you choose your company over everything else, including us. That's not. I never. Alex started, but Rachel held up a hand. Do you remember the night before I left? Really remember it? Her voice was quiet, but it cut through him like a blade. You cancelled our dinner because of some emergency board meeting, the 3rd time that week. I sat in that restaurant alone for 2 hours, watching couples laugh and talk and actually see each other, while I waited for a man who was too busy building an empire to notice that the woman who loved him was disappearing right in front of his eyes. The memory hit Alex like a physical blow. He had been in the middle of a hostile takeover, working 18-hour days, living on coffee and ambition. Rachel had seemed understanding, supportive even. He had never realized. I was building that empire for us, he said desperately, for our future, for the family we talked about having someday. Someday. Rachel's smile was heartbreaking. That was always your answer, wasn't it? Someday we'd take that trip to Italy. Someday we'd buy the house with the big backyard. Someday we'd start a family. But someday never came, Alex, because there was always another deal, another acquisition, another mountain to climb. Alex felt the truth of her words like ice in his veins. He remembered those conversations, remembered promising her things would slow down after the next big project. But there had always been another project, another goal, another summit to reach. So when I found out I was pregnant, Rachel continued, her voice growing stronger with each word, I realized I had a choice. I could try to fit our child into the scraps of time you had left over from Sterling Industries, or I could give her a life where she was actually wanted, actually prioritized. I would have wanted her, Alex said fiercely. I would have prioritized both of you if I had known. Would you? Rachel's eyes flashed with old anger. Really? Because I tried to tell you that night, Alex. I waited until after midnight for you to come home from that emergency meeting, and when you finally walked through the door, you were already on the phone with Tokyo, planning your next move. You held up one finger to silence me when I started to speak, and you talked for 45 minutes about market projections while I sat there with pregnancy test results in my hand. The memory came flooding back with devastating clarity. That phone call with his international partners, the deal that had been worth millions. Rachel sitting on their couch, looking pale and tired, trying to get his attention, him gesturing for her to wait while he paced the living room, mind completely focused on business strategies. "Oh, God," he whispered. "Rachel, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't realize." "I know you didn't," she said softly, and the forgiveness in her voice somehow made it worse. "That was the problem. You didn't realize I existed anymore unless I was convenient for your schedule." They stood facing each other across the small living room, years of hurt and misunderstanding between them. From Mia's bedroom came the soft sounds of a child getting ready for sleep, water running, drawers opening and closing, the creak of an old bed. "I left the next morning while you were at the office," Rachel continued. "I packed everything I could carry and got on a bus to Queens. I found a job as a computer programmer for a small company, saved every penny I could, and prepared to raise our daughter alone." Our daughter. Alex said the words like a prayer, like a revelation. "Mia is really mine." "She's ours," Rachel corrected gently. "She always has been, even when you didn't know she existed." Alex sank onto the worn couch, his legs suddenly unable to support him. 7 years. He had missed 7 years of his daughter's life. First steps, first words, first days of school, bedtime stories, scraped knees, birthday parties, an entire childhood he would never get back. "What's she like?" he asked desperately. "I mean, I can see she's amazing, but tell me about her. Tell me everything." Rachel's expression softened, and for the first time since he had arrived, Alex caught a glimpse of the woman he had fallen in love with all those years ago. "She's brilliant," Rachel said, settling into a threadbare armchair across from him. "Reading at a 5th grade level, though she's only in 2nd grade. She loves puzzles and books and asking questions about how everything works. She taught herself to play chess online using library computers." Rachel paused, a small smile playing at her lips. "She gets that from you, I think, that need to understand how systems work." "And from you too," Alex said. "You were always the smartest person in any room." They looked at each other for a moment, remembering what they had once been to each other before pride and ambition had torn them apart. "She's also incredibly empathetic," Rachel continued. "She notices when other kids are sad or lonely, and she always tries to help. Last month she gave her lunch to a classmate who forgot his lunch money, then told me she wasn't hungry when I asked why she didn't eat." Alex felt his chest tighten with pride and heartbreak. His daughter, their daughter, was everything he could have hoped for and more. "Rachel, about tonight, I didn't plan any of this. I just saw her standing in the rain and she looked so—" He struggled for words. "She looked like she needed someone to care about her, and I couldn't walk away." "I know," Rachel said quietly. "Mia told me what happened. She said you were kind to her, that you treated her like she mattered. She does matter. She matters more than I can even process right now." Alex leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly together. "Rachel, I want to be part of her life. I want to be her father, not just biologically, but really truly be her father. I know I don't deserve that chance, and I know I screwed up 8 years ago, but please, please give me the opportunity to do better." Rachel was quiet for a long moment, studying his face. "Alex, you can't just decide to be a parent because you feel guilty. Children aren't projects you can manage or problems you can solve with money and good intentions. They need consistency, stability, someone who shows up even when it's inconvenient." "I know that now," Alex said urgently. "I've learned. God, Rachel, I've learned so much about what really matters. This evening with Mia, watching her eat dinner, playing chess with her, just talking to her, it was better than closing any deal I've ever made. She lights up everything around her." "She does," Rachel agreed, her voice filled with maternal pride. "But Alex, she's also been through a lot. We've been through a lot. I've been sick for almost a year now, and some days I can barely get out of bed. Mia has learned to be incredibly self-sufficient because she's had to be. She's seen me collapse from exhaustion, watched me choose between buying her school supplies and buying groceries, held my hair back when the medication made me sick." Alex felt rage building in his chest, not at Rachel, but at the unfairness of it all. While he had been living in luxury, making money he couldn't even spend, his daughter had been taking care of her sick mother and going hungry. "What kind of sick?" he asked gently. "Mia mentioned you were tired, but she didn't really understand." Rachel took a shaky breath. "Lupus. It's an autoimmune disorder. Some days are better than others, but the medication is expensive, and I don't have insurance through my current job. I've been rationing pills, trying to make them last longer." "Jesus, Rachel, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you ask for help?" "Ask for help from the man who never called to check on me after I left, who replaced me with a string of socialites before my apartment was even cold." Rachel's voice was sharp with old pain. Alex flinched. She was right. He had thrown himself into work and meaningless relationships, trying to fill the hole she had left behind. He had never once tried to find her, telling himself she had made her choice clear. "I was hurt," he said inadequately. I was angry and hurt and stupid. We both were, Rachel admitted. But Alex, even if I had called, what would you have done? Sent a check? Hired someone to take care of the problem so you didn't have to deal with it personally? The accusation stung because it might have been true. 8 years ago, that might have been exactly what he would have done. But tonight, holding Mia's small hand as they walked to his car, watching her face light up over a grilled cheese sandwich, something fundamental had shifted inside him. I would have tried to solve it the wrong way, he admitted. You're right. 8 years ago, I probably would have thrown money at the situation and thought that was enough. But I'm different now, Rachel. Or maybe I'm finally becoming who I was supposed to be all along. From the bedroom came Mia's voice. Mama, can I have some water? Of course, baby, Rachel called back, starting to rise from her chair. But Alex was already moving. Let me, he said quietly. Please. Rachel hesitated, then nodded. Alex found Mia tucked into a narrow single bed, surrounded by stuffed animals and covered with a quilt that looked handmade. The room was small but cozy, with drawings and photos covering every available wall space. A small bookshelf overflowed with library books and worn paperbacks. Hey, sweetheart, Alex said softly, filling a cup with water from a small sink in the corner. How are you feeling? Good, Mia said, accepting the cup gratefully. Alex, are you and Mama old friends? The question was so innocent, but it carried the weight of everything Alex was still trying to understand. We are, sweetheart. We knew each other a long time ago. I thought so. Mama got that look she gets when she's remembering something important. Mia took a sip of water, studying Alex's face. Are you going to come visit us again? Alex's throat constricted. Would you like me to? Yes, please. You're the nicest grown-up I've met in a really long time. And Mama seemed happy to see you, even though she was sad too. Out of the mouths of babes. This 7-year-old had read the situation more clearly than either of the adults involved. Mia, can I ask you something? She nodded solemnly. Are you happy? I mean, really happy? Mia considered this with the seriousness of a much older person. Most of the time, I love Mama, and she loves me, and we take care of each other. But sometimes I wish. She trailed off, looking uncertain. You can tell me anything, sweetheart. Sometimes I wish I had a daddy, she whispered. Not because Mama isn't enough, because she's the best Mama ever. But sometimes I see other kids with their daddies at school or at the park, and I wonder what that would be like. Alex had to grip the edge of the bed to keep from collapsing. The simple honesty of her words, the longing in her voice, broke his heart completely. Mia, he said carefully, what if I told you that your daddy never knew about you, but now that he does, he wants very much to be part of your life? Her eyes went wide. Really? You mean he's not dead or mean? Mama always said he was a good man who just didn't know. Your Mama was right. He is a good man, and he didn't know. But now he does, and he thinks you're the most amazing little girl in the entire world. Mia stared at him for a long moment, and Alex could practically see the wheels turning in her bright mind. Alex, she said slowly, are you my daddy? The question hung in the air between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Alex looked into his daughter's eyes so much like his own, like Rachel's, and felt his entire world realign itself around this single perfect moment. Yes, sweetheart, he whispered, I'm your daddy. Mia launched herself into his arms with such force that he nearly fell off the bed. She wrapped her small arms around his neck and held on tight, and Alex felt 7 years of missed hugs and bedtime stories and father-daughter moments crash over him like a wave. I knew it, she whispered against his shoulder. I knew you felt like family. Alex held his daughter, and let himself cry for the first time in years. Through the thin walls, he could hear Rachel crying too, and he knew that whatever happened next Whatever they had to work through, this moment had changed everything. When Mia finally pulled back, her face was radiant with joy. "Does this mean I can call you Daddy?" "If you want to," Alex managed through his tears. "I would be honored." "Daddy," she said, testing the word like it was made of spun gold. "Daddy, are you going to stay with us now?" Alex looked toward the doorway where Rachel stood, tears streaming down her face. Their eyes met across the small room, and Alex saw something he hadn't dared hope for, the possibility of forgiveness, of second chances, of becoming the family they were always meant to be. "I'm going to try, sweetheart," he said, never taking his eyes off Rachel. "I'm going to try very, very hard." The next morning arrived grey and drizzling, matching the uncertainty that filled Rachel's small apartment. Alex had spent the night on the couch, despite his repeated offers to get a hotel room. Rachel had insisted he stay, though neither of them had slept much. They had talked until nearly dawn, 8 years of hurt and misunderstanding, spilling out in careful whispers while Mia slept peacefully in the next room. Now, watching Alex help Mia get ready for school, with the careful attention of a man learning to be a father, Rachel felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. He had braided Mia's hair, badly, but with such gentle concentration that it made Rachel's chest ache. He had helped her pack her lunch, asking questions about what she liked and didn't like, memorizing every detail as if her preferences were the most important information in the world. "Daddy, will you walk me to school?" Mia asked, and the word still sounded like a miracle every time she said it. Alex looked to Rachel for permission, and she nodded. "I'll come too," she said, reaching for her coat. The walk to PS 147 was only 6 blocks, but it felt like a journey through a new world. Alex held Mia's hand on one side while Rachel walked on the other, and passers-by might have mistaken them for any normal family heading to school on a Tuesday morning. The illusion was both comforting and painful. "Mrs. Patterson?" Mia's teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, looked surprised to see Rachel at the school gates. Usually, Mia walked to school alone on days when Rachel was too sick to leave the apartment. "How are you feeling?" "Better, thank you," Rachel replied, acutely aware of Alex standing beside her in his expensive suit, looking like he had stepped out of a magazine spread on successful executives. "And you must be Mia's father, Ms. Rodriguez said, extending her hand to Alex with a warm smile. "Mia talks about you all the time." Alex blinked in surprise, and Rachel felt her heart skip. Mia talked about her father, a father she had never met. "She does?" Alex asked, shaking the teacher's hand. "Oh yes, she writes stories about adventures you have together. Just last week she wrote about how you taught her to fly airplanes and took her to see the Northern Lights." Ms. Rodriguez laughed. "Such imagination, but I can see where she gets it. The resemblance is remarkable." After dropping Mia off and watching her run toward her classroom with her backpack bouncing, Alex and Rachel walked home in contemplative silence. The normalcy of the school routine, the casual assumption that they were a family unit, had highlighted just how much their daughter had been missing. "She's been writing stories about me?" Alex asked as they climbed the stairs to Rachel's apartment. "She's been writing stories about having a father," Rachel corrected gently. She gave him your face, apparently." Inside the apartment, with Mia safely at school and the pretense of normalcy stripped away, the weight of their situation settled over them like a heavy blanket. Alex stood in the middle of the small living room, looking lost and overwhelmed. "Rachel, we need to talk about what happens next," he said finally. "I can't just walk away from this. I can't pretend I don't know I have a daughter." "I wouldn't ask you to," Rachel replied, settling into her chair. The morning's exertion had tired her more than she wanted to admit, and she could feel the familiar ache in her joints that signaled a flare-up coming. "But Alex, this isn't going to be simple." You can't just step into our lives and expect everything to be perfect. I know that, but Rachel, look at this place. Alex gestured around the small apartment. You're sick, you're struggling financially, and Mia is growing up without things she needs. I can help. I want to help. With money, Rachel said flatly. With everything. Alex's voice rose, then he forced himself to calm down. Yes, with money, because money can solve some problems. It can get you better medical care. It can get Mia into better schools. It can give you both security and options. But not just money, Rachel. I want to be here. I want to be part of her life, part of both your lives. Rachel studied his face, looking for signs of the man who had once promised her the world, but had been too busy conquering it to notice when she needed him most. What she saw instead was different, older, more weathered, but also more present somehow. As if the driven intensity she had once loved and lost him to had been tempered into something deeper. "What about Sterling Industries?" she asked. "What about all those important meetings and emergency deals?" Alex was quiet for a long moment. "I've been thinking about that all night. I built that company to be self-sustaining, to run efficiently without requiring my constant attention. The problem was that I enjoyed the attention it required. I liked being indispensable, liked being the man with all the answers." He paused, running a hand through his hair. "But last night, holding Mia, watching her face when she realized I was her father, I've never felt more important or more needed in my entire life. Alex, you can't just abandon your company because you're feeling emotional about discovering you have a daughter." "I'm not abandoning anything. I'm reorganizing my priorities." Alex sat down across from her, leaning forward with the same intensity he had once brought to business negotiations. "I have excellent people running every division of Sterling Industries. I can delegate more, work remotely when necessary, focus on strategic oversight rather than day-to-day operations. And when the next crisis comes, when someone needs you to save a multi-million-dollar deal, then they'll have to save it themselves, or it wasn't a deal worth saving." Alex's voice was firm, certain. "Rachel, I lost you once because I prioritized the wrong things. I'm not going to lose Mia the same way. I'm not going to lose you again either, if you'll give me another chance." The words hung between them, heavy with promise and years of hurt. Rachel wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this time would be different. But she had learned to be cautious with her heart, especially where Alex Sterling was concerned. "It's not that simple," she said quietly. "We're not the same people we were 8 years ago. I'm sick, Alex. Some days I can barely function. Mia has learned to be incredibly independent because she's had to be. You're walking into a situation that's already complicated and difficult." "Then we'll figure it out together," Alex said simply. "Rachel, what would it take? What would I need to do to prove to you that I'm serious about this, about being the man you and Mia need me to be?" Before Rachel could answer, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Dr. Martinez's office, and Rachel felt her stomach clench with familiar anxiety. Calls from the doctor's office were rarely good news. "I have to take this," she said, answering the phone. "Hello?" Alex watched as Rachel's face went pale, then determined, then scared. She asked several short questions, made an appointment for the following week, and hung up with shaking hands. "What is it?" Alex asked, already moving to her side. "My test results came back. The lupus is getting worse, and there are some complications with my kidneys." Rachel's voice was steady, but Alex could see the fear in her eyes. "Dr. Martinez wants to start me on a new treatment protocol immediately. It's expensive." "How expensive?" "The medications alone will be about $8,000 a month, plus regular monitoring, possible hospitalization if things get worse." Rachel laughed bitterly. "I was barely managing the current treatment. This is impossible." Alex felt something fierce and protective rise in his chest. "No, it's not impossible. I'll pay for it. I'll pay for everything. Alex, I can't let you. You can't stop me, he said firmly. Rachel, this is my daughter's mother we're talking about. This is someone I care about very much who needs help. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Please let me use it for something that actually matters. Rachel stared at him, and Alex could see her pride warring with her practicality, with her love for Mia, with her own desire to survive and be there for their daughter. There's something else, she said quietly. Dr. Martinez thinks I should consider moving somewhere with better air quality, less stress. The pollution and pace of life here aren't helping my condition. Where would you want to go? Rachel was quiet for a moment. When I was little, my grandmother lived in a small town in Vermont. Mountains, clean air, quiet. I always thought, if I could afford it, that's where I'd want to raise Mia. Then that's where we'll go, Alex said without hesitation. We. Alex looked at her steadily. Rachel, I know you have every reason not to trust me. I know I hurt you badly 8 years ago, and I know I have to earn the right to be part of your lives, but I'm not going anywhere. If you move to Vermont, I'll move to Vermont. If you need to stay here, I'll stay here. Whatever it takes to be the father Mia needs and the partner you deserve. Partner? Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. I never stopped loving you, Alex said simply. Even when I was angry, even when I convinced myself I had moved on, even when I was too proud to admit I had made the biggest mistake of my life when I let you go. I know I don't deserve another chance, but if you'll give me one, I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving that you can trust me with your heart again. Rachel felt tears welling up in her eyes. The man sitting across from her wasn't the driven, distracted workaholic she had left 8 years ago. This was someone who had learned what really mattered, someone who was looking at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. Alex, I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared of getting sick, scared of leaving Mia alone, scared of trusting you and being hurt again. Then let me help you not be scared, Alex said, reaching for her hands. Let me take care of you the way I should have 8 years ago. Let me be the father to Mia that I never got the chance to be. Let me love both of you the way you deserve to be loved. Before Rachel could respond, they heard the sound of small footsteps on the stairs outside, faster than usual. The door burst open and Mia flew in, her face bright with excitement. Mama! Daddy! I told everyone at school that I have a daddy now, and Ms. Rodriguez said we could do a family tree project, and Billy Thompson said his daddy takes him fishing on weekends. And can we go fishing? And Sarah's daddy knows how to make pancakes that look like animals, and... She stopped abruptly, noticing the serious expressions on their faces. What's wrong? Why do you both look sad? Rachel and Alex exchanged glances. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her mother is sicker than she realized? That big changes might be coming, that the family she had just discovered might have to face difficult challenges together. Come here, sweetheart, Rachel said, patting her lap. Mia climbed up, all elbows and knees and boundless energy. Mama and I were just talking about some changes that might be happening, Alex said carefully. Good changes or bad changes? Mia asked with the directness of childhood. Different changes, Rachel said diplomatically. Changes that might mean we move to a new place, but also changes that mean Daddy will be with us more. Mia's face lit up. Really? Daddy's going to live with us? Alex looked at Rachel, asking permission with his eyes. She nodded almost imperceptibly. If that's what you want, sweetheart, Alex said, I want to be with you and Mama every day. I want to help take care of both of you. Yes! Mia threw her arms around Alex's neck. Yes, yes, yes! This is the best day ever! Over their daughter's head, Alex and Rachel looked at each other with a mixture of hope and terror. They were walking into uncharted territory, carrying years of hurt and love and uncertainty. But for the first time in 8 years, they were walking into it together. Outside, the grey morning was giving way to tentative sunshine, and somewhere in the distance, a church bell chimed the hour. Inside apartment 3B, a family was slowly, carefully, beginning to rebuild itself from the fragments of the past. 6 months later, the morning sun streamed through the wide windows of the farmhouse Alex had bought in Stowe, Vermont, painting golden rectangles across the hardwood floors. The house sat on 20 acres of rolling hills, with a view of the Green Mountains that took Rachel's breath away every morning. It was everything she had dreamed of during those difficult years in Queens: space, clean air, and a peace that seemed to seep into her bones and help her heal. Rachel stood in the kitchen, watching through the window as Alex and Mia worked together in the vegetable garden they had planted in the spring. Mia was chattering excitedly about something, her small hands dirty with soil as she helped Alex stake tomato plants. The sight of them together, her daughter and the man who had become the center of both their worlds, still sometimes felt like a dream she might wake up from. The new treatment protocol had worked better than anyone had dared hope. The cleaner air, reduced stress, and proper medication had given Rachel her life back in ways she had forgotten were possible. She had energy again, could keep up with Mia's boundless enthusiasm, could work part-time for a software company that valued her skills and allowed her to work remotely. Most importantly, she could be present for the 1,000 small moments that made up a childhood. "Mama, come see!" Mia's voice carried clearly through the open window. "Daddy says the carrots are almost ready." Rachel smiled, grabbing her coffee mug and stepping onto the back porch. Alex looked up from where he was kneeling in the dirt, and her heart still skipped a beat at the sight of him. 6 months of Vermont living had changed him. He was more relaxed, laughed more easily, and had developed what Mia called farmer muscles from all the outdoor work. He came up to visit the farmhouse every week, sometimes staying for days at a time, slowly building the relationship with his daughter that should have existed from the beginning. "Look, Mama!" Mia held up a carrot the size of her forearm, beaming with pride. "It's huge! Daddy says we can make carrot cake with it." "Daddy's been promising a lot of cooking projects lately," Rachel observed, settling into one of the Adirondack chairs Alex had built for the porch. "I'm learning," Alex said, brushing dirt off his hands as he approached the porch. "YouTube is surprisingly educational when it comes to cooking with 7-year-olds. They had settled into this rhythm over the months, Alex dividing his time between his restructured responsibilities at Sterling Industries and his new life in Vermont. He had bought a small apartment in New York for when business required his physical presence, but his real home was increasingly here, with them. He had proven day by day and week by week that his priorities had fundamentally shifted. "Speaking of which," Alex said, settling into the chair beside Rachel's, "I have some news." The tone of his voice made both Rachel and Mia look at him attentively. "I've been talking to my board of directors about making some permanent changes to my role at Sterling Industries." Alex paused, watching their faces. "They've agreed to let me step back from day-to-day operations completely. I'll remain as chairman of the board, with input on major strategic decisions, but the company will be run by people who are frankly better at managing details than I ever was." Rachel felt her heart begin to race. "Alex, what does that mean?" "It means," Alex said, reaching for her hand, "that I can be here full-time. Really here, not just visiting. It means I can coach Mia's soccer team and help with homework every night and be the kind of father and partner I should have been all along." Mia let out a shriek of delight that probably scared every bird within a mile radius. "Really? You're going to live here all the time?" "If you'll have me," Alex said solemnly, "both of you." Rachel stared at him, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he was offering. Sterling Industries was his life's work, his legacy, his identity for so many years. For him to step away from active leadership was— "Are you sure?" she asked quietly. "Alex, you built that company from nothing. Are you sure you won't regret this?" Alex smiled, the expression transforming his face with genuine joy. "Rachel, 6 months ago I thought my legacy was a billion-dollar company. Now I know my real legacy is that little girl over there who inherited my stubborn streak and your brilliant mind. I know it's the family we're building together, the love we're creating in this house. Sterling Industries will survive and thrive without me micromanaging every decision. But Mia won't get another childhood, and I don't want to miss another minute of it." Mia had abandoned the garden entirely and was now bouncing around the porch like a small dirt-covered tornado. "Does this mean we're a real family now? Like, officially?" Alex and Rachel looked at each other, a conversation passing between them without words. They had been moving slowly, carefully, rebuilding trust and love with the patience of people who understood how precious and fragile second chances could be. "Mia," Alex said, pulling something from his pocket, "there's something I want to ask both you and your mama." Rachel's breath caught as Alex dropped to one knee on the porch, holding a small velvet box. "Rachel Patterson," he said, his voice thick with emotion. 8 years ago, I was too stupid and scared to ask you this question when I should have. I've spent 6 months proving that I'm a different man now, but I want to spend the rest of my life showing you and Mia how much you both mean to me." Mia had gone completely still, her eyes wide with understanding beyond her years. "Will you marry me?" Alex continued. "Will you let me be your husband and Mia's father, officially and forever? Will you help me build the family we should have had all along?" The ring was perfect, a simple solitaire that caught the morning light and threw rainbows across the porch. But it was the look in Alex's eyes that made Rachel's decision, the absolute certainty and love she saw there. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes." Mia launched herself at both of them, and they ended up in a laughing, crying pile on the porch floor, holding each other tight as if they could prevent time from ever separating them again. Later that afternoon, as they sat around the kitchen table planning their wedding and Mia's official adoption, because Alex wanted to make sure his daughter carried his name legally as well as in his heart, Rachel marveled at the journey that had brought them here. A year ago, she had been a sick, struggling single mother watching her daughter go hungry. Alex had been a lonely workaholic living in a glass tower, successful by every measure that didn't actually matter. A chance encounter in the rain, a small girl's innocent request for leftovers, had changed everything. "What are you thinking about?" Alex asked, noticing her contemplative expression. "Just how different everything is now, how a single moment can change your entire life." "The best moment of my life," Alex said firmly. "The moment I found my family." Mia looked up from the wedding magazines Rachel had produced from somewhere, her face serious. "Daddy, were you sad before you found us?" Alex considered the question with the honesty his daughter deserved. "I was, sweetheart. I didn't realize how sad I was because I kept myself too busy to think about it. But yes, I was very sad and very lonely. But you're happy now. I'm the happiest man in the world now." "Good," Mia said with satisfaction, returning to her magazine. "Because Mama was sad too, even though she tried to hide it. But now we're all happy together." As the sun set behind the green mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, the Sterling family, soon to be officially complete, sat around their kitchen table making plans for their future. There would be challenges ahead, they knew. Rachel's health would require ongoing attention. Mia would grow up and test their patience in the way all children do, and Alex would have to continue proving every day that his transformation was permanent. But they would face those challenges together, as a family born not from convenience or circumstance, but from love that had survived separation, mistakes, and lost time. They had learned that some stories don't end with the first goodbye, that sometimes the most beautiful chapters are written after we think the book is closed. Outside their farmhouse windows, fireflies began to dance in the gathering dusk, and somewhere in the distance, a barn owl called to its mate. Inside, three hearts that had found their way home to each other began planning the rest of their lives together. One day, one meal, one bedtime story at a time. Alex Sterling had finally learned what true success looked like. It looked like a 7-year-old girl with grass stains on her knees and soil under her fingernails, calling him Daddy. It looked like a woman who loved him enough to give him a second chance to be the man he was meant to be. It looked like a farmhouse filled with laughter and the promise of forever. And it had all started with a simple request. Could I maybe just have some leftovers? Some leftovers had become a lifetime of plenty, and the millionaire who thought he had everything discovered that he had been living in poverty until the day he opened his heart to a hungry little girl standing in the rain.